Honorable Chairperson, members of the committee, while proponents now prefer to call it by another name, House Bill 7297 seeks to legalize a practice presently described in the Rhode Island Criminal Code as assisted suicide. I will just highlight just a few of the many dangerous provisions of the bill before you. While this bill states that witnesses to the written request must attest that the patient appeared to be free from duress or undue influence at the time the request was signed, those words have a narrow legal meaning and can be very difficult to prove. This bill in no way prohibits family members, healthcare providers, or other interested parties from suggesting, encouraging, or exerting subtle pressure on vulnerable individuals to request assisted suicide. Since victims of domestic abuse, including elder abuse, are extremely vulnerable to persuasion from their abusers, it takes little imagination to understand that this bill could put abused individuals at grave risk. According to this bill, the written request for the lethal drug prescription does not need to be made in the presence of a physician. It could be signed in the patient's residence and mailed in. And while the bill requires 2 witnesses, one of these could be a relative who would gain financially from the patient's death, while the other could be the best friend of the potential heir, and nobody would ever know. Under this bill, patients are considered capable of requesting assisted suicide not only by communicating the decision on their own, but also by communication through persons familiar with the patient's manner of communicating if those persons are available. There is no requirement that such communication assistance be independently verified. This could lead to a patient's wishes being misunderstood, misinterpreted, or even disregarded. Who will know if the person communicating on behalf of the patient is doing so accurately? Under this bill, a physician does not need to refer the patient for counseling unless the physician, who may have no prior relationship with the patient, believes the patient has, quote, impaired judgment.
And that's a little over 2 minutes.
And I'll refer to my written testimony for the remainder.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Bracey? Yes, Representative Walsh.
Thanks. Mr. Bracey, I'm just a little bit confused. You said that the request did not need to be made in the presence in the physical presence of a physician, but on page 2, line 25, it deliberately says the patient made an oral request to the physician in the physician's physical presence. So I guess I'm just confused as to what part of the bill says that it can be mailed in.
The written request, 413-3A4. So you're referring to the oral request. The written request does not need to be made in the presence of a physician.
Thank you. Any other questions?